Yo dog, Kenny Boucher here, Next Level Painting, hitting you up on the literal best of all days, hitting you up on this Friday morning, the first actual video I've recorded of the new year. Everything else has been a ruse. I pre-recorded all that stuff so I wouldn't leave you guys without a dope beat to step to. In 2016, we're going to be pushing the pace. We're going to be trying to do a whole month ad-free. We have a lot of things lined up. I want to thank you guys though for giving me an epic first calendar year. 2015, when we started this channel, we had no idea how big it was going to get. You guys have been helping out big time. The Long War has grown. My Patreon page has grown. Thank you guys for supporting me over on Patreon. And of course, thank you guys for signing up to thelongwar.net. And for you, those of you who haven't signed up, that is your exclusive portal to early access to all our battle reports, our webcasts, and more. Today, we'll be doing part 2 of painting tanks. Last time we talked, it was simple techniques to getting these tanks to that next level. Now we're going to be jumping into the advanced techniques. We'll hit you up with technical effects, subtle techniques to making realistic metals, but also that super hyper highlighting technique that I'm also known for. Today is going to be a good video. It's going to be 2 long videos in a row. I've been trying to hit you guys with some length, and then, possibly a shorter, maybe technical video about maybe how to use the airbrush and other things, because it does get kind of hard to do like nothing but 20-minute long videos in the midst of my painting schedule. I've said it a million times, don't do it for money, but it does take money to do this, so please head over to my Patreon page, my personal crowdfunding page. If you got any amount of money to throw my way, it matters. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Let's jump right into it. Let's do it. First step, Vallejo model wash for dark vehicles. We're gonna go crazy. You may remember from the last video that we used this, but we were subtle. Here, we are not going subtle. We're going on thick. We are using a little bit of water to help spread it out, but outside of that, we're just going on beast mode. And what we're trying to do here, what our goal is, to create a realistic metal. We do not want it to be too shiny. We do not want it to be too dull. We do not want it to look too new, and we do not want it to look too old. So this is a really good wash to help create that effect. And we just, obviously we're going over the primer. We just simply used a primer spray paint silver. We're going straight to this wash, and then we're going to let it dry. But be sure to get it in every nook and every cranny, because sometimes when you're priming with these metals, you miss some of the plastic, and you start to see it in some of these little nooks and crannies. That is easily remedied with some of this super thick dark wash. Just make sure you get that wash everywhere. Go crazy, you're going to get it all over the place. I'm not even wearing a glove, so I can't even wear a glove when I use this wash because it's so slippery. But there they are. They're dry, they're dull, they have a kind of a realistic military look to them. And we're going to go to the next step, the ancient Chinese step. And that's going to be dry brush. So what we're going to do is we're just going to dry brush a basic metal here, and use whatever neutral metal you like. I'm simply using I think I'm even just using GW here, whatever their equivalent to bolt gun metal is these days. We're just going on dry brushing, go against the grain, go with the grain, do all the grains. We're using a big brush, not particularly nice. I think I might even use an X-Acto knife to clip some of the tips of this bristles off, because I've been using this dry brush for so many years. But you see, what we're doing here is we're just eliminating some of the weird drying patterns from the wash. We're hitting the ridges. We're creating definition by dragging that brush across the ridged areas, wiping out the wash that's there, creating more definition, and the wash stays in the recesses. It's the double whammy. You could have just dry brushed. You could have just washed, but we're doing both. Next step. This is one of the brightest silvers there is. This is Vallejo Silver. We're going to use it really subtly, dry off that big brush, get it nice in there. We're not going to go nearly as beast mode here. we're letting this incredibly bright silver subtly accent some of the, highlights we just established previously with the dry brushing of the more neutral metal. And you're seeing here, we're getting a very, very neutral, but still subtly highlighted metal, a very realistic metal. This metal looks actually real. Like in person, it looks like a piece of metal. Like it doesn't look like a miniature painted metal. These are simple tricks to getting that metal looking tight. And there it is. Very subtle, very easy. We went back with the wash. We got in some of those cracks to make sure that it was really still established. And what we're left with is a very nice, military metal. This is where it gets advanced. RZA Rust. And you're going to watch me use RZA Rust in a way you haven't seen me use before. We're going to water it down, and we're basically going to paint it on as rust. Normally we glob it on really thick and mash it around with a sponge or with a bigger brush. But what we're doing here is exercising a degree of control. Find all the areas you want the rust to exist. Start drawing it there. Keep your water flowing. It turns out that this actually is an amazing effect if you water it down just a little bit. So this is where we're going, not too dirty, but still dirty. Anyway, let's finish out these turrets real quick. Let's just start establishing that rust in very subtle ways. Build it up. Be methodical here. You don't want to rush this. You want to use the exact right amount of water. Layer it up, lay it down, move along, and then as it dries, go back, throw a little bit more in there, a little bit less diluted to help create more intense rust patterns. This is a fun technique. I really enjoy doing this. It really, brings that subtle, use to the table. Very chaos, it's not in such disrepair that they can't use it, but it definitely has been used. There it is. It's almost like it's being cleaned, but it can no longer be perfectly clean because it's so ancient and so used. Very proud of this metal. I love this metal for this tank. Now let's just finish these turrets up before we move on to the rest of the tank. What we're going to do here is we're going to paint these little display screens in here. Go through, paint all the little bells and whistles and all that bullshit. You got a little dude that's supposed to stand in front of there. I've got him somewhere on a base that I'm going to paint separately. And go in there, paint these things purple. Get them established. Go to pink. Load up your airbrush and look how fast this is to do to make this monitor just look fresh. Bow. There it is. Straight up. Now you can do whatever you want with that. You can go in there and draw some little squigglies, some little symbols on it, little wavy lines, whatever you want to, but I'm gonna let this ride right here. I feel like this looks good. It looks like a glowing screen. It's miniaturized. My little dude's gonna be standing there right in front of the screen, so he's gonna be obscuring it a little bit. Got all the controls painted up, but I just wanted to show you guys a real quick technique to making these screens pop and make them look a little bit more intense. Take out some of that wet blending. Let's go back to RZA Rust now and let's finish this tank out. We're gonna find every little possible place to apply this wet blended RZA Rust technique that I've been showing you guys. The hatch, we're gonna trace the doors. And that's funny that I said tracing. That's what I've been telling people during the holidays that I do. Everyone's like, what do you do? I'm like, I'm a painter, but I'm actually just a tracer. So, build up that rust, make it look fresh. Like I said, you want to do multiple passes. If you want it to look really rusty in an area, use less water. And you can see those tracks in that frame right there. That's where we dry brushed the RZA Rust on, because it comes super thick. Like I said, what we're doing is we're using RZA Rust in a way it was never intended. And we're showing true hobby flexibility here by doing this. And I really love these results. Can't say enough good things about them. Apply them on nice and thin. Like I said, what I do love about this technique is it dries pretty fast. And then it lets you do another layer. And you can intensify it. Or you can add a little more water to move it back around. Like it dries, but it's like only as temporary as you want it to be. It's really interesting formula, this technical paint. We're gonna go on these ridges. We're gonna try to create some fun streaks. Just go to town with it. Like now I've upgraded the brush size in some areas in there. Want beast mode, more water, less water. It's just a fun technique. I can't say enough fun things about it. This is a different way to approach the weathering. You know, we're still using a heavy rest formula, but we're approaching it so much more methodical. This is definitely the advanced version of the technical effects, because I've done many videos that were like 5 simple tricks to technical effects and stuff like that. This is definitely a more advanced way, more methodical way. This is truly more of a labor of love here, because this does take functionally 3 times as long to do. But you do get, like I said, a nice, clean, subtle effects. It is a paint by numbers formula though. There it is. It's looking good. It's coming along. I've really enjoyed this process, really hobbied out on this. You know, and they are just popping. That's that combination of like weathered and super clean, crisp lines on those greens. I love the way this looks. Some people online don't like it. That's fine. I didn't paint this for you. I painted it for me. But thank you for following the journey at least, and maybe hopefully even a hater learned something. What we're doing real quick is we're grabbing our airbrush. We're going to pull out any brown you want. I'm using Reaper's Harvest Brown. And I'm just building a quick little subtle shadow from the bottom of the treads up to kind of simulate some dirt and wear and tear. Real subtle. I'm not going crazy here. Like I said, this is a tutorial of more subtle technical techniques. We're not going beast mode. We're not, over weathering. I really want there to be that marriage of dinge and absolute hyper cartoony pop. That is what I'm trying to go for. Now we're going to load up a little bit of black in the airbrush, and we're just going to do a final dark line there at the bottom of that tread, just reiterating like the closer to the dirt it is, the darker it is. The dirt scoring is just more dark there. It's just how I'm not a scientist. I don't know if it actually would look that way, but in my mind, that's how it looks. And I didn't Google search tanks before I painted this. As you can see, no tank on fucking Earth looks like this tank. It is insane. It is nuclear. It's glowing with a nuclear green, but still has a realistic metal and a realistic tread. We're going to now do something that you don't see me do every time I do a tank. We're going to do some hyper highlighting here. We're taking our Necrotite green. We're taking our Flash Kids yellow. We'll mix them together, and we are going to edge highlight some of these ridges. Now, I'm not going to sit here and trace every line on this tank. That is not something that is in the next level painting formula. That shit is stupid. What I'm doing is I'm finding little areas like right here, and I'm going to just hit, that little 90-degree angle and those 245-degree angles, and I'm just going to pull a highlight from there as the central point. And I'm not even going to draw it all the way across on every angle. I'm just going to do, a quarter of the length of every run of line. So instead of like just tracing every line perfectly, just pick the ones that pop out the most. Trace those. You don't need to be insane. You know how long it would take to trace every line on these models? That shit is not something I'm into. And you can see, it's not like we're cutting corners. We're producing a very clean product here. We're doing a lot of love, putting a lot of love into this. We're going to go in and we're going to paint every single one of those little nuts and bolts with this yellow and this green combo. We're going to really pop this out. We're really going to make these greens stand out. And, look at it. It looks fresh. That's a clean green. Now, obviously, it's not a realistic green. Like I said, that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to do an unrealistic element and a realistic element together. That's one of my favorite styles of painting. For the final piece of technical advice is we're going to use the oxide. We're going to water it down, and we're going to subtly apply it to the treads, just in some areas, like right at the front toward the bottom, where it might get more, it might splash all over it, and get it more corroded there. But we're not going to go beast mode on this. Now, I do enjoy a good beast mode technical effect, don't get me wrong. This is just the tutorial of more subtle effects, the advanced tutorial, the more methodical tutorial, because we have done a million tutorials on just beast mode technical effects. So I really enjoyed putting this one together and showing you guys a different way of approaching the problem. We did the Plague Hulk a couple of weeks ago, and the Plague Hulk was a more realistic skin tone. It wasn't the hyper green, and now we're right back to the hyper green. So I did want to illustrate that, but I can't get away from it. I got a lot of clients commissioning this green, but I got some exciting news though. 2016 is going to be a big year for Infinity, so look for some Infinity tutorials coming soon. Check out this final product here though. I want to thank you guys for watching these videos. That means a lot to me. Please continue to support these videos. Leave positive comments or negative comments if you really feel it's necessary. I don't discriminate. check out my Patreon page and thelongwar.net.